Okay, so my name is Brandon. I'm here with,
Brian Caloris from Socialist Alternative.
so tell us a little bit about yourself.
So we're organizing for a new party of the 99%. We were active in Bernie Sanders' campaign. We urged him to run as an independent. We got 120,000 signatures for him to do that. And we think that the Democratic Party doesn't represent the interests of working people, the interests of people in struggle, that it's fundamentally controlled by the corporations. And that we need mass movements like Black Lives Matter, mass movements like the struggle for $15 an hour minimum wage, mass movements to defend the environment, and also that capitalism is the root cause of all the problems we face. That capitalism is a dictatorship of big business, the dictatorship that controls our workplace, that controls our culture, that controls our politicians. And that's why we think we need a new party. And that Jill Stein's campaign can be a step towards this in building the strongest left independent vote. We realize that people are afraid of Donald Trump for good reason because of his racist rhetoric, etc. But we can't let the right wing, like Donald Trump, pretend to be the anti-establishment voice. We need a voice for working people. And that's why we think we need a new party, why we need mass movements, and why folks should vote for Jill Stein in this election.
So what have you thought about the primary so far? So the primary's over, it's convention time. How did you feel about not necessarily the Republican primary, but how about the Democratic primary? We saw a socialist candidate for the first time.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Bernie Sanders' version of socialism is not Socialist Alternative's version, but at the same time, it was tremendously exciting. Tens of thousands of people engaged in politics in an excited way, talking about a political revolution against the billionaire class, which I think does speak towards what we need, a revolution against the billionaire class. So we got involved in Bernie's campaign. Even though we're not Democrats, we urge people to vote for him as a tool to organize, right? At the same time, we all along said we disagreed with his decision to run as a Democrat because of what he'd be up against. And we saw what he was up against in the corporate-controlled Democratic Party. From in Nevada, them undemocratically bringing in the cops to stop a vote from happening when Bernie delegates were going to win in Nevada, the undemocratic counting of the votes in California, in New York, where I'm from. And it shows that the Democratic Party is far from democratic, it's undemocratic, and that's why we need a new party that doesn't take a dime in corporate cash and represents working people. And I think Bernie's campaign showed what was possible. He didn't take a dime in cash, he represented the interests of the working people, and it shows what we can do outside of the Democratic Party because of how undemocratic their primary process was.
So what would you say is the main difference between Bernie Sanders socialism and the social alternative socialism?
I think Bernie Sanders fights for a lot of things we support. He fights for a $15 an hour minimum wage, for stronger unions, for free college tuition, for free guaranteed health care for all, paid for by taxes on the billionaires. We support all of that. All of those reforms are great. We strongly disagree with Bernie Sanders' foreign policy. We think that the U.S. military, their main role in the world has actually been to make the world worse, to make it better for U.S. corporations, and have actually increased terrorism through the drone campaigns and bombing campaigns. But also, we think that what Bernie Sanders poses in terms of the reforms he wants doesn't go far enough. That if we want to fundamentally change society, that working people need democratic control over the top corporations. We don't need just to break up the big banks, we need the big banks under democratic control and management of working people. And that's what can lay the basis for a transition to clean energy, that's what can lay the basis for ending wars, that's what can lay the basis for a real fight against all forms of oppression like racism and sexism in our society.
Just one more question. So we know the DNC is literally starting soon. So what if Bernie comes out full-throated support of Hillary Clinton? How do you feel about that? He's already sort of semi-endorsed her.
I think we need to be prepared that he is going to come out full scale in support of Hillary Clinton. He is going to try and pull people into the Democratic Party, and I think that's a big mistake, and that's something we need to organize against. We've been organizing alongside Bernie for many months, and now we need to organize against this move that he's making, because it's incorrect. Hillary Clinton is the candidate of war, the candidate of Wall Street, and the candidate of Walmart. And take this beautiful movement that we've built and get it behind this billionaire class candidate demobilizes our struggle for all the things Bernie fought for. And we need to keep fighting for those things in the streets and movements, in the workplaces, but also alongside Jill Stein, who represents so many of the issues that Bernie campaigned for.
Okay, so I'm a socialist. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Philadelphia. Where should I go if I want to see other socialists and, you know, engage in that kind of thing?
Okay, so we have this meeting tomorrow night with Shama Sawant, who's Socialist Alternative's most well-known member by a long shot. She's the Socialist City Councilor in Seattle, who got the first $15 an hour minimum wage passed in a major city in the country. And tomorrow night, Sunday, July 24th, 6:30 p.m. at Church of the Advocate, 18th and Diamond Street, we'll be discussing why we need a new party for the 99%. And there will be people there, people who are delegates going into the DNC, people who are activists in Philadelphia to talk about the campaigns they're working on locally in their communities, and people all throughout the country that feel like we need a new party and fundamental change in society.
Well, thank you for your time. I hope to see you there.
All right, thanks a lot, Brandon.